Good morning, everybody. Let me just drop this link in a couple spots and then we're good to go. And then we'll just go live now. This will wrap up at 9 o'clock today. Just FYI. We used to do 9:15, but considering the volatility in the trading community, I just need to be in there. We used to do 9:15, but let me get rid of that. And then we're good. All right, good. So good morning. Happy Monday, Shock. Okay, major indexes rallying the upside. Possible any thoughts on PTN, MST, or left? Let's run through these. I mean, here's really what's going on out there is like if you're in one big trade right now, and some of these are just going to act better than others. But until this stuff settles down, we're just going to be all over the place. So one of the larger issues that you're seeing is just the fact that natural gas just imploded. Like no one had that on their bingo card this morning, right? So when you start to see things like that, you just need to be aware that there's other underlying forces that we just don't understand that are moving the markets right now, and it's all interconnected. So we really want to watch that, and we really want to pay attention to it. Now, something like this Monster beverage, I wouldn't even go near until I was over the 50-day. If you're not over your 50-day right now, you're not even on my radar. Like you're really not. You're not even on my radar. I'd be really careful of anything that does not have institutional support right here. I think that's really what you have to look for, right? The 50-day is where you have institutional support. And if you're there and you don't have that institutional support right now, you're going to have a problem. Okay. And that's not something that you want. Now, Lyft, that could work. There's some major stuff going on there. If you take a look at Lyft, I could just tell you by looking at it that you have a lot of overhead resistance. Okay. So you have a lot to get through there. I mean, pardon me, my level would be 2282. That's the level that I would look at and I would focus on, 2282. It's not something I'd go crazy on, John, to say the least. It's not. I'd watch and I'd be really careful there. BMI moving. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what the news is there. I didn't have that on my list. So let me just see here. It's got to be news driven, right? There's got to be some kind of news on that out there that I just haven't gotten to yet. I mean, you're up, what, about $5? So there's something going on there. I haven't read the news yet. Usually names like this fade. The people that have been in there for months, they usually fade them. And you're coming right into a wall. So just watch that 76 level like a hawk. I wouldn't be buying that. How did it do when it got there? Did it get there today already? Yeah. So look at my level that I drew and look at how it acted. If there's one thing I can do, it's draw a level. So if you can see that, right, and see that level real clear, this is really what you're dealing with. You have a ton of overhead resistance right there. So you're just going to want to watch that. It's not something that I would be running into. If I was a betting person, which I am, I'd be on the other side of that trade right now. But again, you're seeing some major divergences already this morning. We're seeing a, let me just see that here. There. Okay. And we'll go from there. So let's just see how we're doing right here. And so that BMI is going to do fairly well, but you got to watch that level like a hawk, man. I'm not crazy about any of those ideas. PTN, I'm assuming Peloton is what you meant. So I'm assuming that. I mean, I can't go near that either. That's not something I would do unless you're meant PTN, and I don't know what that symbol is, which wouldn't. Maybe you did mean Peloton. If you meant this, it's not really my kind of bailiwick, these lower price names. If you look at the volume, that's really going to tell you everything you need to know. You have these volume spikes. Could you go? Sure. But here's your first level that you're going to have to watch on this PTN is right here, right? And you're already rejecting that level. So it already is telling you that you have an issue and go from there. So just focus on that. And it's definitely something that would be my focal point. Hold on one second. Let me jump to the present. Do we have a target for Tesla? Yep. So I do. I'll go through it in a bit, Aussie. So in regards to the CZR and DraftKings, so let's just go to. Yeah, this could be setting up, actually. These are the kinds of names you want to look for. So what you're looking for, like CZR, like what's appealing about this to me, right? So you have this line right here. You have a line right here as well, right? So you can see that line fairly clearly. It's not a perfect V, but it's there. And now you're starting to turn. Now you're above the 5, you're above the 50. That's where you want to be. I mean, you could try it here. Over 53 would be where I would be very interested. Something like that, I'd be very interested in over 53. I mean, you can see you've had a declining 50-day for close to a year, right? You've had a declining 50-day. What's the 50-day doing? Starting to point up for the first time. You need to not only look at where you're at on the line, you need to look at the slope of the line. I can't stress that enough. It's one of the key things that are missed. So for those that are in the trading room, we went over that this week in the educational class. Just focus on that, right? That's what you want to see. So that's definitely something that I would be absolutely focused on. Now, in regards to DraftKings, yeah, that can absolutely move 100%. That can move. And let's just take a look here. So this was something we actually did in the newsletter. If you don't get the newsletter, there is a version, a subscription link below in the description that you can get it in. If you take a look at DraftKings right here and how you're popping over, you can get right to that 1891. I mean, can you get up there? You can. I would tell you that this is fitting all the criteria of things that are working, where you have these wicks tests on the 50, and then the 5 starts curling up. I mean, that's what's working right now. That particular setup is working very nicely. You have a declining 200. You have to get over that and close over it. And since you broke here in September, you have not. So, but this is pretty typical. Okay. So this is how long it takes when you break like a 200. It could take like a year. And so you've gone through that year. You've gone through the pain. So that may work. That is something that can work. So don't rule it out. Just know exactly what you have to focus on here and go from there. A lot of people are missing the macro part of this whole trade. They're looking at the technicals, and you need to focus on the macro too. I think you're in the right space, right? Like NFL kicked off. People are talking about it, all the upsets that are going on out there. People are going to start looking at how to play that. And that's definitely one way to, for them to play those names. So please like the video. It helps me greatly with the algorithm. And we'll go from there. Let me just get to that point. Give me 1 second here. Great. So let's just keep going down the line. What's up, Steve? Good morning. You're in those calls. What's your strike? Your strike 1750, 50. What's your expiration? I'd like to know your expiration if you don't mind sharing it. What's up, Steve? Hey, Jen. Hey, Shock. Hi, Anna. Hope things are well. I don't know, Anna. It could affect pricing. I mean, we're so out of whack right now. As we're talking, we're watching. I don't know that they'll have this done properly in this system yet. Let me just take a look at this and see what they have. TrendSpider just got futures. I'm just not sure how good they are yet and what their symbols are yet. Crude. Let me see if I can find this. Continuous current. See if they do that right. Yeah. So this is kind of interesting because you're actually bidding up on oil today, right? So like oil's actually bidding up. Natural gas is actually coming in. So I don't know if they have natural gas here or not. They might have no, I have to look for it. This won't be it. That's not going to be what I need. So I just use UNG to explain it. So you're actually under this pricing right now, right? So you're actually down on UNG and you're rejecting this 50-day, right? Which is kind of crazy that one's going up and one's going down. Like, did they just find a bunch of natural gas that they didn't know that they had as a reserve? Like, it's kind of silly, but it's under pressure. And I think a lot of this has to do with that energy margin call and how they're going to handle that energy margin call. So it's definitely something that we have to be aware of. But could that strike be a reason for that? I mean, it could affect it, but we don't know. Hey, Tony. Hey, Jason. So BPT, let's get going here. Sure. Yep. So I wanted this to break above the 21 SMA before I got involved in it again. I had a position in it. It didn't work at all. I thought we'd break through right here. That is not what happened. You have a declining 50. Sometimes you try and play those ahead of time, but that did not work. You're above your 50, or your 5, but it's pointing down. You're sitting right in your 21. There's just too much going on there to really consider that right now. Can it work? Sure, but I don't think you have any distinct edge there whatsoever. I just don't see that. So, it's not something I'd be rushing into. Let me put it to you that way. I'd want to more focus on, watching how this settles out. When we go through this stuff and we go through margin calls like we're going through, you have no idea how this is going to play out. And this is kind of the stuff that I'm talking about. We're watching natural gas implode a little bit this morning, not a lot, in 1.5%, but it doesn't really fit in with crude oil going up 2.5%, does it? So when you start seeing a little discrepancies like that, you just kind of want to pay attention to them, because it means that there is some kind of disparity going on. And unless you really understand that disparity, you're going to have a hard time. And that's not really what you want. So let's figure that out and go from there. And see, but that's really where my focal point would be. I would be watching natural gas like a hawk, and I'd be watching oil like a hawk and see how they do. Let's keep going here. MS. Let's take a look at MS and see what's going on. Yep. So you're flipping, you're trying. I think it's very telling with going into this CPI tomorrow, what's going on here. Like, look at what's going on with financials. So they may have bottomed. There's a really good chance that these bottomed. I mean, this is not the kind of cup that everybody wants to say is a cup, but here's your trend line. Here's your kind of cup. Here's your handle. I mean, this is what happens. You rally up. This is how bottoms are formed. You rally up, you pull back. Everyone thinks we're going to zero again, and we're coming back down to here. And then it catches somewhere, right? Finds buyers, and it found buyers, and now you're trying to push higher. These are your levels. This is really what you need to watch. You need to watch how you respond at that 92.32 level. You need to watch how you respond to this 83 level. That's really it. I mean, that's your defining trade right there, because if you make the higher high, then it's basically you're starting an uptrend, right? If you like a real uptrend, not like something like this, but like a real one. And if you break below this, then you're basically setting up to retest these lows. So you're kind of in no man's land here right now. So you might want to hold off until you just see what the CPI is, and then how they act going into quad witching. And then next week you have the Fed hike, right? We know they're going to raise rates. We just don't know how much. So when they raise rates, we'll figure it out from there. But we just don't know, how much that's going to affect the market. We really don't know. I have my opinion, but everybody has an opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. But Names like that, yeah, I think for sure there's definitely stuff uh, that can work. That makes a lot of sense, like that, like those kinds of names. So you definitely want to focus on that. Look, when you see financials start to hold, and you want to pay attention to it, okay? And the financials are holding right now, so keep that in mind, Cam. Crappy Stack BBIG. What's going on, bud? So, yeah, I can't go near this. I mean, what are you up $1 this morning? So you're up like 8%. Everyone's getting all excited. Could you spike like this? Sure. Yeah, absolutely could. I mean, the only way that you're really going to be able to notice that is to go through something like this, right? These moving averages are pretty much useless. There's really no point to them. So what we're really focused on here is the following. You're just focused on how am I going to act in here, right? And what kind of volume do I have? And you really have nothing. I mean, so far you have like one person trying to move it with 300,000 shares, which is very little money to try to move that name. So you could move that name. You could spike and have something like this, but it's pure conjecture. I would want to see this kind of volume if I was going to even attempt it. So that's how I look at that kind of name, bud. But it could work anytime, John. My pleasure. ADP pullback. Everyone remember, no one's asking about this, but you guys know that Oracle has earnings tonight, right? And software has been crushing it. So usually this misses and then people buy it on the miss. That's not been the case recently. If you just kind of take a look at this, and no one's really talking about Oracle ahead of this, but we should just probably bring it up, right? While I'm thinking about it. So something to maybe watch tonight, because software has been eating the world. No company's been doing better than no sector's been doing better than software. Now, these kinds of names you want to watch. You want to watch these pullbacks, but this is probably setting up pretty much very similar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you catch, right? So what you'd want to do is see where you are in relation to your 50, right? So you're perfect right there. So that's pretty easy to see where your stop is if you're looking at this as a long-term trade and you're trying to turn that 5. The 5's still pointing down, so that's kind of a negative on that trade. But if you're willing to take that $4 risk, I mean, that's a very simple trade. Like the whole trade's mapped out right there, because if you break that $4, right? Or let's say you take out that low. What's the low of that bar exactly? So you say you take out, yeah, I mean, that's even better. It's $3, 241.11, right? I wouldn't chase it up. I put an order near where it closed. And if you get it, you get it. But if you take out that low, you're below the 5, okay? And you're at a lower low. So that gives you a really good entry, very cheap on that name, if that's something that's appealing to you. Now, you just got your dividend out too, so now you're going to see other people buy that. Let's see how you respond on dividend day. Well, usually after dividend day, you tend to trade up a little bit and you tend to hold the 50. So yeah, that can work, absolutely. And that's definitely something that you should be considering. Hey, Jay, SPY, let's take a look at that and go from there. So, yep. So this is something that I'm looking at where I'm wondering if we did form that bottom. Has that bottom formed? I don't think that we know that yet. I'm not really sure that we have a full understanding of what's happened here just yet. A lot of people, this is from last night's newsletter. I'll clean all this up, all the text. But you see this V? I mean, you just have to know that this is there. It does not mean that you can't take out the bottom again. It just means that this is where you're at. So when we have these ideas on where we're going to go and what's going to happen, you have to realize they're opinions. You can't really trade the opinion. You can have a thesis, but you just don't know. For me, getting above the 50 and and the 5 pointing up ahead of the number, this is probably the leakiest Fed that we've ever had. And it's not a political statement. It's just a fact. Like everything is leaked. So it was CPI leaked? Is that why we're seeing this? Because you're actually seeing stocks rally into, you're seeing stocks rally into the number. So I find that interesting. Like, why would you be putting risk on into that number? Right? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So something to think about. Okay. Something to think about. So keep that up, keep that in mind, Jay. But I like it. I like the position of it. You know, you have a big week this week, but you're doing everything right. Let me put it to you that way. UPS contracts up next year. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you kind of have to watch stuff like that and be aware of it. ARCC and CCJ. Hey, Debazian. Yep. Of course I can. CCJ. Let's take a look here. Yep. So that's where you're at, Cameo. I don't know. I'm not a fan. It's like Wick City to me, right? Wick after wick after wick. I'm not saying it can't work. These names have been working really well. It's just not my kind of trade when I see wicks like that. It's too much price rejection. This is very simple. It's telling you exactly what level you need to watch, right? I mean, that's just peak bonk level, right? Bonk, 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 tries, fails, flips, support, tries again, resistance, bonk. So there's your level. I mean, you need to stay above that. And if you do, you might continue to go. Very simple trade. Get over 20 and then use 1970 as a stop. That's a real easy trade, Debazian, if that works. Snow, yep, that's setting up. Snow's definitely setting up. I mean, there's very little question about that. The whole software sector looks great. And you're really holding in there. So this was your turn. You know, I would be more, and this is how the market always works, I'd be more inclined to go heavier on positions if I didn't have the gap risk that we have tomorrow. So you know you have major gap risk, right? That, you know, if you go look at CPI and the release dates of CPI, you can gap down 2%, you can gap up 2% on the indexes. So you just need to be aware that that is a possibility tomorrow in your trading. Okay, definitely something to think about. I like snow a lot here. I do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'd be rolling things out. I think I'd ride that for what it is and then maybe look to reset next week. You don't want to, you want to be really careful resetting into quad witching because you're going to have a lot of imbalances. Unless you understand those imbalances, you're going to have an issue. So just keep that in mind. Oh, you're welcome, Tony. My pleasure. So just understand that you're going to have an issue with quad witching and what's going on out there. Just reach out to me and I can walk you through it on how I would do it. But again, I mean, it's not financial advice. I'm just giving you my opinion. If you watch that level, I mean, it doesn't get much clearer, does it? So first mouse gets what? The trap. Second mouse gets what? The cheese. Okay, that's exactly what's happening here. I mean, this is like a classic. I mean, even William O'Neill even would add. So let's say you owned 100 shares here. He would actually increase right here because this time around, the probability of it going is substantial. Sometimes that works and sometimes you get vertexed, right? So you just don't know what's going to work, right? Like where it pops out, you think that time it's going to go and then it breaks and then you think it's going to pop out. That time it's going to go and it breaks and you get flim-flammed, right? It doesn't always work, but it's definitely something where you see that bar and you go, okay, well, that's a very easy stop, right? Because the low is the open. So if they're not back buying when it gets back down there, then you have an issue. And that's really what that would be my focal point, that you would have an issue. So, but I like that. Go to. I like snow a lot. AMC. Yep. So let's take a look at AMC and go from there. So in regards to AMC, you're going to see this like try to get through. I actually like this better. I was looking at this the other day. I threw it out there, in the trading room. Like, you just might want to watch this. It kind of flipped, right, and kind of did its thing and got over and then pulled back a little bit and just sat there. But this is when you broke down. Right here, right? This is your 5-day, right? So you can kind of see when this is actually your break right after 5 days, right? So you flip that 5-day right here, you start curling, and now that has become that support. I like this better, frankly, but it's up to you what you want to do here. Can these go? Yeah, they can. They can move. I just like the ape trade a little bit better because I know I know I have a buyer out there. So the buyer, I know I have a buyer out there because you have a big fund that is shorting AMC and buying ape because they say they should trade at parity. Now, whether or not it ever does remains to be seen. You could always have a gap like that, and that gap is something that you wind up missing. So keep that in mind. But overall, I'd be focused on my stops today. I'm just going to leave everybody with this. I'd be very focused on my risk going into tomorrow's numbers. If tomorrow's numbers are good, you should see a sustained rally. Doesn't mean you need to be there for today, but you might see a sustained rally, and that sustained rally might be a better way to play what's going to happen if you're risk adverse. If you're not risk adverse, there are some charts out here that just look exceptional. I mean, they really look like they're setting up. So keep that in mind. My red flag is just going to be, watch the indexes. Just watch how the indexes act and go from there. Watch how we act if the VIX starts going up into tomorrow. And the VIX is pointing up a little bit right now, which is kind of interesting, right? So the market's up, but the VIX is up. So something's going to give there, and we just don't know what it is yet. So that's something that I watch when I start seeing inflows into the market. But at the same time, I see put protection coming in. It's an odd time to be buying puts if the market's going up. So one of those disconnects might shift, and that may be something to watch. So keep that in mind. Yep, please like the video. It helps me greatly with the algorithm, and it supports the channel. And the more people we get in here, the better, because the more people that we get in here, the more we're able to find ideas. Like, I can't look at everything for obvious reasons, right? There's 8,000 stocks out there. So I obviously can't look at everything that's going on. So it does help me greatly, the more people that are in here and the more ideas that we can see, because then we can just kind of go over them all together. And that is definitely something that's helpful. So, but that's it, everybody. I'm going to jump in the trading room now. If you need anything, just always, you can email me. Let me just print that email up. Sometimes people have like questions that they don't want to ask that are in the room. Just email me here. I will get to it. It's a one-man shop, so it's me. So you have to give me a little bit of time to answer the emails. I'm doing everything. So keep that in mind. But you just email me there. If you're interested in the trading room, there is a link in the description, and there is a link pinned in this community room. So, and we'll go from there. I've been going over my long-term ACE account, still up, but we'll be selling a lot of stuff. That's it. Yeah, look, DeBasey, I'm going to leave with this because I got to hop in the room, but let's go through this really quickly. I'll just walk you through this. Okay, that's Chevron. Now, can I go from 160 to 130? Yeah, I can. But I'm building a huge multi-year flag, right, after a decade base on Chevron. Wake me up when you get into 225, 250, if you're looking out years. Like, there's very little to do here if you're looking out years. If you're looking out weeks, it's a little different, because I don't know what Europe's going to do. I really don't. So keep that in mind. I would use CVX as my guide over those smaller names. All right, I got to jump, everybody. Have a great day and trade to win today.